Hello, and welcome back to the Relationship School's Smart Couple Podcast, episode number 146. I'm your host, Jayson Gaddis, shouting at you here from Boulder, Colorado, from the mountaintop. Just kidding. I'm actually in my home here on the ground. And it's good to be here with you. I'm grateful for you. Guess why? Well, other than just each week you bear with me here and you hopefully learn something. But really, we have reached 1 million downloads. Gulp. Yeah, 1 million. 1 million downloads is no small feat. You know, I started this a couple years ago thinking I'll give it 5 sessions, and then that went well. And then I said, all right, I'll do it for 1 year. And if people like it, I'll keep going. So I don't always know, as I say sometimes, because some of you never email me. There's no reviews. It's just you're listening. And so it's like I'm talking into space. So if this is valuable, please keep sharing it with a friend or leave us a review and send us an email if you like and just say thank you. That's totally cool. We don't know really the impact we're having. It's kind of a mystery. But when we see stats like 1 million downloads, I'm like, oh, and I see the upward trend over time. I'm like, okay. Something's working here. So anyway, thank you. Thank you for listening. And what do we do here? We are all about romantic relationships over time, long-term romantic relationships. We're not into short-term relationships, although those are fun. We're into the steeper path of monogamy and long-term relationship because it just gets hard. And you get triggered, you shut down, you distance, you pull away, you blame, and you wonder why in the hell did you marry this person? Because they are grating every last nerve on you, or you're feeling really judged and small in comparison to them, or something like that, right? We all have our own little version. And, a lot of relationships don't work out. I'd say the vast majority of relationships long-term just don't work out. And the stats say 50% still. I have a hard time buying that, but let's just go with it. But it's more like 90-95% of people just never reach a fulfilling long-term romantic relationship. And there's one big reason why that's the case, guys. And that big reason is because people do not know how to work out their differences. Period. And that has to do with not learning conflict. It has to do with not being able to be with your own nervous system dysregulation and activation and triggers. And most of us act like children or young people or animals when we get triggered. We do fight, flight, freeze, and we never really formally learn how, so we just keep repeating like a broken record our pattern of shutting down or blaming or distancing, and that's what we do. It's kind of tragic if you think about it. So for the brave of you, however, who want to learn how, you can. It's like anything. Learning dance, guitar, swimming, reading. I'm teaching my son how to read now. And it's fascinating because every time he gets a little better, but he's very frustrated at times, right? That's how it is learning relationships. You get really frustrated because you're judging yourself and you're wanting to be farther along. And I hear you. I don't like being a student always either. And it's part of the magic. All right. So, this segues into one of the biggest things I love to teach. One of my most favorite things to teach is this stuff of how to work out our differences. Ever since I was a kid, I've just kind of tracked the big people and other people. I'm like, why can't human beings work their shit out? What is wrong with us? And I was one of those people. And until I learned how, right? And it led me to a lot of pain and frustration because I didn't know how. I was just doing my thing, thinking I'm fine, but I really deep down inside, I was empty and depressed and felt pretty alone. So that's why I'm going to invite you right now to our Relationship School's Weekend Intensive, okay? And the theme this year is called Embracing Conflict. Embracing conflict. Do those words go together? Yes, they do. Wait, Jayson, why would I want to embrace conflict? Because, guys, conflict is a doorway into greater understanding and love. And it is powerful. It's either a door or a doorway. It's what you make it. And if you never learn how, it's a door that slams in your face, shut. And that's painful. It's supposed to be painful. But when you learn how, it's a doorway. It's incredible. So if you want to come learn how to make it a doorway, come to the live relationship intensive here in Boulder, Colorado, September 29th to October 1st. And you could win a free ticket. Okay, it's contest time, folks, and I am offering you a free ticket to this live weekend. Okay, the retail price is $1,000, although right now we are just launching it at our early bird rate of $799, and you get to bring a friend for half price, $400. So you get to come hang with me and these crazy people that want to learn intimacy and connection and want to step up to the plate here and be the role models the world needs right now. So if you want to join us, go to that website right now and you can sign up. JaysonGaddis.com/RSWeekend. JaysonGaddis.com/RSWeekend. We'll include that in the show notes. Click the link, takes you there, boom. You can read about it. You can hit your payment. You can bring your partner. You can bring a friend. And it's going to save you some money. And we're at the early bird rate until August 11th. Now, if you want to stay tuned for the contest, I'm going to give those details at the very end of the show here after my amazing interview coming up. So I won't bore you with those details, but if you want to apply, please listen to the very end for all the details. There's a few requirements that hoops you got to jump through in order to apply, including making a silly video of yourself. All right. Now, let's move on to our amazing guest. This episode is really a good one, probably one of my favorites, definitely in the top 10. And it's with Danielle Laporte. Okay, this woman is a badass. Okay, Danielle Laporte, a little bit about her, all right? She's an invited member of Oprah's Super Soul 100, a group who, in Oprah Winfrey's words, is uniquely connecting the world together with a spiritual energy that matters. Okay, she's the author of White Hot Truth, which I got right here. All right, here's her book. We talk about her book a little bit, and you can see that on YouTube if you want. And she's written the Firestarter Sessions, the Desire Map. She's written, several books here. She's named one of the top 100 websites for women by Forbes. So millions of people go to this woman's website every month. And she's a speaker, a poet, a painter, and a former business strategist and Washington, D.C. think tank exec. Entrepreneur Magazine calls Danielle equal parts poet and entrepreneurial badass, edgy, contrarian, loving, and inspired. Okay, so this woman crushes and laughs and cries and does all kinds of things. She lives in Vancouver with her son. And why I brought her onto the show is because she is a personal growth monster. She's done a lot of personal development in her life, and she talks about it all in her book, White Hot Truth. And she both makes fun of the personal growth scene, but also says it's so necessary and talks about all the pitfalls that we can run into, like trying to continue to be somewhere where we're not and then beating ourselves up. We've always got to grow and be someone else or somewhere else, and we're never satisfied with who we are. So she talks about that, and that's a big trap in our personal growth scene, right? So this interview is really valuable, and there's a lot of nuggets here, okay? A few comments about this episode, just teasers. Okay, she's got a great line. One of my favorites in the episode is about asking for too much from your partner. Like, when your partner judges you as like too much or asking for too much. Okay, she has an amazing comment about this, and it's going to stop you in your tracks, okay? We had to go over it because I was like, wait, say that again. We talk a lot about her being the therapist in the relationship, in her former relationship, and how women in general can fall into that trap of being the therapist in a romantic relationship, and the kind of pain in the ass that can turn into. So we had a good laugh there, and also she's got some advice there. We talk about narcissistic men. We talk about being single, what that's like for her. She talks about her doing anything back in the day to get love from a guy. And, there's just some really vulnerable, inspiring moments here. She also talks about parenting, and she has some really good advice for me on the relationship school near the end, if you want to hear that. And then there's an amazing kind of section there on the inner child work. Do we need to do inner child work, us people that like to grow and work on ourselves? She's got an opinion. And then there's a good one about the difference between not getting laid and being celibate. And I think you will like that. Okay? All right, so let's dive right into this interview with Danielle Laporte. And stay tuned to the end for your action step, as well as the details on how to win a free trip to Boulder, Colorado, to embrace conflict and learn how to do this stuff finally, right? Here we go. Welcome to the show, Danielle Laporte.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah, grateful you're here. Stoked to chat with you. So, Danielle, you live in Vancouver.
I live in Vancouver. Love it.
Shangri-La. Yeah, such a cool place. Does it ever get sunny up there? I mean, I hear it's kind of cloudy sometimes.
It's it's Seattle weather. So summer is impeccable and pristine, and summer is so amazing that you forget that it's rain for a lot of the year, but it's a great place to be a writer. So I love the rain. I never complain about weather here. It's lush, it's green. You never feel guilty for not hiking or going for a run when it's raining. You just write your next book. Yeah.
Great. I tend to love the rain, places like that, because it's like, I know I can get a really good hot drink somewhere, tea or coffee or something.
Yeah. There's lots of, like in my neighborhood, there's more cafes per block than anywhere else in Canada.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I bet they're all really cool.
Cozy town. Yeah. It's mixed. We're actually one of the neighborhoods who voted out Starbucks when it first came.
Oh,
we didn't win, but that tells you the character of my hood. Yeah.
Yeah, right on. And did you grow up there?
No, I'm from Windsor, Ontario, but you don't really talk about being from Windsor.
Why not?
You didn't. It's like the armpit of Ontario.
Okay, got it.
But I shouldn't say that publicly. Is this public? Is anybody going to listen to this? It's
well,
right across from Detroit. So you grow up and everybody either works in one of the car factories or works in one of the car factories, or you get out.
Yeah. Well, I'm guessing even the armpit anywhere in Canada that's kind of like that is probably still pretty cool. I've had nothing but amazing experiences in Canada.
Yeah. Well, I like to think so. Yeah. Humanitarianism, liberalism in the true sense of the word.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's the ethics fit with where I'm grateful that I chose to be born here. It works with the fabric of who I am. So
awesome. Do you have siblings? Did you grow up with siblings?
I'm an only child.
Okay.
Which will explain a few things, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And parents, were they married, divorced? Were they?
Shotgun wedding. So my mom got knocked up in high school. So I grew up, therefore, with very young parents. So exposed to a lot. There's like a lot of parties, a lot of weed, a lot of hockey. And they made it until I was 13, which was pretty miraculous. A lot of interruptions in between. So they are like super divorced.
Okay. Got it. And obviously that had an impact on you somehow.
Yep. My psychologist says so. Yeah.
We're going to get into that. Yeah. And just by way of a bio, like, who are you now? Like what's happening in your life now? I know you're an author, you've written books and you put yourself out there and you're a seeker and you know, a teacher. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about you right now.
Mm-hmm. I write, I speak, I make stuff. I make stuff about my search. I'm very interested in consciousness and devotion. I'm very interested in, defining my version of success and a life that's like really holistic. It's important to me that I'm pretty much vegan, that I'm a mother of an incredible 13-year-old super creative kid. My business plan is broadcast light. And I love the entrepreneurial game. So that's a real sort of left brain, right brain hit for me that I can do both. I feel really close to God when I'm on stage. I'm an extreme might be too extreme. I'm very much an introvert. So I just come out for special occasions, like gigs, like podcasts. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, really happy to be home. On the Enneagram, I'm a 4. The romantic individualist.
Oh, yeah.
So my relationships, my friendships, a lot of close friendships very close, not interested in small talk. I go to a party, I go to any kind of event, I probably will be the person who leaves early, or I'll sit in the corner all night and talk to one person, and I'll know everything about them by the end of the night. And that's a good night for me.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm loving it. We have some things in common there.
Mm.
I'm a 3 enneatype, 4 wing. Sometimes kind of depends on what year it is. Anyway, love the 4 type of person, just the creative, unique person. So, how did you get into writing? How did you,
Survival. I mean, it's always been there for me. I made books when I was in grade school. It's like books, 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 books. I want to write books. I want to make books. I want to eat books. And then I became a publicist. That led me down this crazy road. Eventually, I was running a think tank in Washington, D.C. for futurists. That was like totally bizarre and weird. And then I came back to Canada, to Vancouver. I started a small branding, like personal branding company with a friend, wrote a book. And then around the same time, this magical thing happened called WordPress. And that was it. That was really, I mean, that was the thrust of the beginning. And it's really only been in the last, I would say the last 5 years where I declared myself a writer, even though I've written many books and I write for a living. I consider myself, like, I seek and I write about it. I could have done a lot of other things. I could have made documentaries. I could have been a painter, but this, like, everything collided, that this is perfect grid to lay my stuff down in writing. Yeah.
And what did you first start writing about when you first started writing, on WordPress or just your first book?
It was all soulful stuff. It was about forgiveness. It was about standards. It was about ethics, but in my, really hip, accessible, kind of chick, interested way. Just really being myself. Like, I care as much about mascara as I do about meditation. I mean, that's a bit of an exaggeration now, but that's what my friends and I talk about. Did you find this? Did you try this? Did you go to that retreat? What did you think of that guy? That's, so I wrote about my life and went to this Buddhist retreat center and wanted to escape in the middle of the night. And on the way home, bought a pack of Marlboros and went and visited some friends. Like, that's real life.
Yeah. Outstanding. A lot of threads there I want to ask about. Let me back up another step. What was your first book? Was it Desire Map, or which book was it?
Well, the very first book was called Style Statement. And it was this formula for, you would come up with 2 words that really identified who you were, that you could use to, like, choose the sofa in your living room, or figure out how you were going to dress, or like how, the best way of worshiping for you. And it had this formulas on the 80-20 principle. It was actually really amazing and cool. But I lost the rights to that book in a business divorce, so I don't really talk about it anymore. And that book is the reason Oprah called us. So, and then that led to a bunch of, me raising a bunch of capital for my business at the time, our business at the time, which, became this whole other amazing story of me getting fired from my own company and rising from the ashes. And here I am now.
It seems like you've been through some stuff.
Yeah. I wouldn't be that interesting if I hadn't suffered.
Right.
I wouldn't be that useful. Let's put it that way. I don't need to be interesting. I need to be useful. Yeah.
Nice. I love that. What do you think separates someone like you, who turns some of their pain and the challenges into an opportunity to tell a story or learn something and teach someone else something about that, versus someone who gets stuck and stays there for a long time?
I think there's couple things. One is, and this is more in a shallow and external, but I really want to be of service. Like, I have to be being useful. I really do want to leave the planet better than I found it. I want to be loving. I just, at the very basics, I just want to do no harm and get out of here and figure out if I'm going to come back again,
Yeah.
But more than that, I do my work. I'm devoted. I love the light. I'm in love with the light.
Has that always been the case? Like,
yes.
So even when you were in pain and
I was
crying,
born this way.
Let's say, what's that?
I was born this way. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you tell us like a memory you had where you knew that about yourself, that you loved the light and you wanted to help others?
Well, I think this stuff shows up, your essence shows up when you are a child. And you will either let it get oppressed and repressed by social standards and you'll become a robot, or you're going to be rewarded for your essence. And that will give you some motivation to be a little bit more of yourself as a child, and then a little more and a little more. And then you reach this maturity through line comes through where you're just like, I'm going to do what it takes to keep nurturing that light, to keep showing up. I know it feels good. Now I'm going to do it. I don't need my teacher or my parent to tell me I got it. So I was encouraged at a young age to be myself, not in any awesome radical way, just like Danielle, run for school president when I'm in grade 8. We'll get you there early. Why don't you? Hey, you want to do that for your science fair? We'll help. We got it. Won the science, so there was encouragement there,
And you had some
but
natural leadership abilities, it sounds like.
absolutely, and also just a freaky mystical kid. Like I had I had my Barbie Malibu playhouse, and I had the Virgin Mary there, and like a little Jesus thing, and Barbie. And I was like so into Jesus when I was in grade 3, 4, 5.
Huh.
And that carried, I was going to Catholic high school. My parents weren't that Catholic, but um, it was a school that was there in our little town. And yeah, just, I thought I could talk to birds. I was pretty convinced that there were fairies in the forest behind my house. I thought for sure unicorns were real.
Yeah. Were you ever picked on or made fun of for being that kind of mystical kid, or was it
No.
actually intriguing? Kids loved it and they thought you were great. And
Yeah. Yeah. There are other things just from being a kid. I think I could get into a whole discussion about bullying, but anyway, I was never bullied. No.
okay, so you felt like you had good social relationships growing up.
Yes. And I always felt like the outsider.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
How so?
That's part of the 4 personality. God, this is therapy. Is this what you do?
Well, I just like to get to know my guests a little bit. I'm like, who are you? It's fun.
Yeah, that's great. What was the question?
How did you, well, I don't know. I lost the train.
It was about being an outsider. That's part of how I'm wired. So jump cut to today, where, just to paint the picture, I'm very solid in my quote unquote industry. I'm well known. I have a quote unquote big following. I've got a company with 9 people. We make some money. I'm still the outsider. Let me clarify that. I'm an outlier.
Mm-hmm.
I have walked away from a bunch of publishing deals. I decided to self-publish. I took a year off of speaking when it was, I was really bookable. I'm at a point right now in my, at a really specific place right now in my career, my business, where I'm just so fucking done with the game of trying to get the clicks and the fame and the this and the that and the headlines that get you the most attention for your blog. I'm just really fucking done.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I need a little time. I need the summer sort of figure a few things out, but I'm always there in my own life of like, I've outgrown this. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to, and that's 20% of it. The 80% of that way is I want to be pure. I want to be even more devoted. I want to be even more of myself. I want to be even more loving. How can I turn my business model into something that's as compassionate as possible?
Mm-hmm.
How can I be as like unfurled sexy as I am, as spiritual and esoteric and woo-woo as my real life is, and still be in the world?
Yeah.
And be able to, I want all the girls that work for me, the women, the one dude, I have one dude. Let's have great lives. Let's have great lives. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you have this, it's cool because I hear you walking a couple, like this path where you have one foot in as this outlier that likes to be alone and is somewhat introverted. And then you can't help but like follow your service work and your heart, and you want to give and you want to help others, it seems like.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think they're mutually exclusive at all. I mean, what I'm doing is working. I'm serving, I think, pretty effectively. I could always be more effective.
Yeah.
And, I got lots of time in my turret by myself with the people I really love. Yeah. And I'm open to new people and lots of newness. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. I really resonate. And it seems like you, like any of us, we need downtime after we do our heart work or we give a lot, give. We need to go maybe retreat or recover or
Mm-hmm.
rest. That seems
Mm-hmm.
important, right? We need to
Yeah.
do that.
Essential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I love about you, I want to talk about your book for a minute. Your new book, White Hot Truth. And it
Mm-hmm.
seems to me that the essence of the book is about the spiritual path, the human path, and how we can fall prey to external authorities and all these different teachings that tell us we should be this way, we should be that way. What I hear you saying is let's continue to find that's fine. And sometimes we actually do need to listen to an external authority. And other times we need to reject the authority and like be ourselves and do it our way.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't, you have this cool way of kind of making spirituality more street level. And you've clearly studied a lot, practiced a lot. So will you say a little bit about, if I'm on the right track here, of what this book is really about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got it. This book is about discernment and devotion. I think like those are the bookends of it. So let's wake up to all the stuff we've been falling for, that we haven't been falling for, that that the stuff that we're doing that really is feeding our freedom. Let's clear all the stuff off of our plates and our calendars and our bank accounts and our schedules that really isn't lighting us up. And let's realize that a lot of that, what's getting all that stuff on our day planners is lack of self-worth, the hole in our soul, not being awake, not really loving ourselves. That we think one more workshop will fix us. If only I were more, and then you get into the spiritual, quote unquote, spiritual themes, ideologies. I should do everything I can for harmony. No, because being real is actually very harmonious sometimes. If only I were more loving, this relationship would work. Not necessarily true.
Mm-hmm.
Be interested to hear your opinion on
Yeah.
that. So why are you doing it? Get clear on what's really working, define what's really working. And then, and then the sandwich in that is like, you're clear on your truth and what you really believe in for now. And you're going to lead your own spirituality. And then it's all about devotion. And I'm like taking no prisoners on this one. It's like, really, are you in? You really in to be loving? Are you really a light worker?
Mm-hmm.
Because, the new age has sold us this pretty bill of goods that light working is so sweet and so bright and so pink
And blissed
and
out. Yeah.
blissed out. That's right. And blissed out. And that everybody is a reflection of you. And that if you love yourself more, the world will love you back. These things are only half true. Only half true. They only are true some of the time for some of the reason. There's a real, not dark, but mature, fierce side to all of that. And you put them together and it's magnificent and it's beautiful and ends up being very soft and compassionate. I mean, I think, my journey has been, I think tenderness is really the result of being a warrior.
Mm-hmm.
But not first, but along the way, you're going to have to be a warrior. This is part of discernment. This is part of saying, fuck you, no, this doesn't work for me. Guru, tantric teacher, another belief system, overpriced workshop, coach who doesn't really know what they're talking about, someone who's selling me something, 6 steps to success. They haven't even done them themselves. Stop. And it's getting harder to see who's real because it's so easy to brand yourself in such a polished way and be really loud in people's face. But yeah, discernment, love, really recommitting, deeper commitment.
Yeah. There's you have so many great themes in the book and many of what you just said. I want to talk about it in the context of, for this audience, the Smart Couple audience is really
Yeah.
about having a good relationship means that you work on yourself and you face your stuff, and so does your partner. Because if I don't face my stuff and look at my the ways in which I'm getting triggered by you, and I address that, I'm just going to keep acting out and shutting down and running away, and it's
Mm-hmm.
probably not going to get me very far in my relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to stay with this theme of the trap of continuing to believe that we're sort of not enough right now, and we have to listen to another of Jayson's podcast, or we have to buy one more book to then I'll be fixed. Will you speak
Mm-hmm.
to what is that like? Seems like a core vulnerability of human beings where this not enoughness, this is pervasive.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lie. It's one of the big lies. I call it the lie of inadequacy. And we are fed this from day one. And I think we're fed it for lifetimes. I think the lie of inadequacy is like steeped into our DNA, that we're just not enough. And then we get hatched and we're told there's a right way and a wrong way to do things. This is the culture of robots. And do this and you'll be popular. This is what you should do. After you move in together, then you should get married. This is what you do to get loved, essentially.
Yeah.
And we get talked out of our feelings. I think really that's the mechanism for it, is getting talked out of what's really going on for us. You're not tired. You're not scared.
Yeah. Invalidating comments.
Yeah. You don't really,
oh, you're fine.
You're fine. You don't really mean that.
Yeah.
And you're like, it totally messes with your brain.
Yeah.
Your nervous system. Our nervous systems are being messed with from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
And then God help you. I love the irony of that. God help you if you're born into an organized religion. Because for so many of us, Christianity being one of the predominant faiths on the planet, and all the tributaries under Christianity, you can be Catholic, you can be a Seventh-day Adventist, whatever. Yeah. It's the lie of the original sin. You're actually born tainted. You're a born sinner. You're born bad. And even if you didn't have that crammed into you through some kind of methodology, organized religion, it's there. It's in the water that we drink.
It's the puritanical sort of air we breathe sometimes, right? If we've steeped in it in our childhood.
Yeah. And then the perfect storm is marketing and advertising. So you take it from that so-called spiritual depth, and then you bring it to everyday life, and the constant fucking barrage of messaging that. Like, even, look, I'm sure you've observed, whatever, a bunch of courses on online marketing. Every online marketing course will tell you explain to your potential customer what the problem is and why they need your stuff. You're heartbroken, you're lonely, you want to make your first six figures. Have you not made your first six figures yet? It's all based on affirming someone's lack so that they feed your bottom line.
Okay, let me challenge that for a minute. So let's say writing, for example. Okay, I don't have as much experience as you writing. I could compare myself to you and feel inadequate, right? And there's a legitimacy to my inadequacy because I just haven't trained as much. I haven't written as much. The seeds of greatness are inside of me, let's say, right?
Mm.
But I literally don't have the chops because I haven't put in as much time as you, right? So isn't that a valid place where I could feel inferior or inadequate and actually want to buy a course to improve, to like go, oh, I need more accountability so I can write more. So then I can
buy the course to improve. Buy the course to improve. Absolutely. Because it's part of the path you're on and you want to become a master. Of course. Begin with a beginner's mind. Do it. Stephen Covey, sharpen your saw. Absolutely. What I'm getting at is the lie of marketing that's affirming our weaknesses. Mm-hmm. So I don't think, and we can break this down, like I don't think, say you want to become a better writer or a more effective writer, let's say. It's not that you're inadequate. You're just going to deal with reality. This is where I am in my path of success. This is where I am in my evolution. Yeah. I'm a B+ writer. I want to be an A+ writer. That makes you really fucking adequate. Like, you can see it, you know what, you're going to do something about it. That's a very different energy than like, oh, I'm never going to be as good as somebody else, and I better buy this program.
Yeah, and then I continue to collapse into that, never enough, and then I might continue to buy the stuff that makes me. But again, I want to just the part I'm challenging here is like, it's also up to the sort of victim in that case to like learn how to move, take a step forward, right? Because a lot of us will stay stuck in our poor me story about how I'm not enough. And then we keep buying stuff to try to be enough. But it's like,
Yes.
I need to actually do the work. You know, if I want to get good at basketball, I need to practice free throws. Like nothing's going to get me better than practicing, right? I'm
That's
not
right.
like
But
a
you
great
need,
basketball player.
okay, you need to do the work from a place of devotion, and you want to get better and you believe in yourself, and it's like
Yeah,
expansive.
I'm aspiring to
You're
rather than.
aspiring. That's right. It's based on, actually, the differentiation I make is it's based on inspiration instead of motivation.
Mhm.
Motivation is external. If I do that, I'm because of them, because of that goal, that then I'm going to get rewarded. Inspiration is I'm moved. My being is compelled to go in this direction, and we're going to see what happens here. This is going to feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
And
Exactly.
you're also rooted in yourself enough. You got enough self love and self respect that you can look at people who are in different places than you, and you can be inspired by them and not threatened, not in that angsty comparison. We all know comparison is toxic. It's a killer. Cut it out. You know, I've got people in my life where I just think, wow, God, what they're doing is amazing. What's my version of that?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Great.
that this becomes a whole conversation about creativity then. It's like, where do you find your inspiration? And, you know, like I find inspiration from Bruce Springsteen about how to write a great blog post.
Uh-huh.
That's self-help, you know?
Yeah. Nice. I want to come back to creativity if we can, but first,
Okay.
just while we're here in the sort of inadequacy, whatever, if we tie that into relationships, have you ever felt not enough in an intimate partnership?
I would put a twist on that.
Okay.
So I have felt not loving enough. So I haven't felt like, oh God, this is a great question. I've never felt that I was unworthy, that I wasn't worthy of what I wanted in a relationship. I felt unskilled,
Mm.
or I felt like, oh God, maybe I am evil because I want this change. Maybe I'm asking too much and I felt like this is it. I've never felt unworthy, but I felt like I was a bad person for all kinds of reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was
Yeah.
your partner at the time doing to give you that message, or what was happening that
Oh,
gave you that?
you're asking for too much, Danielle. You ask for too much. Yeah.
This is a big one for the listener here. So that's why I'm
Yeah.
asking this
Okay.
is
We
a
can
lot
get
of
into
people
it.
have a button there, right? Of
Mm-hmm.
I'm too much. I'm asking too much.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'm a bad person, or therefore there's something wrong with me, or
That's it.
therefore whatever, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if you felt how long, like, is this recent? This is past? This is a
It
relationship
was
you
a
were in?
long-term relationship. Yeah.
Okay. Still in
Yeah.
it or not anymore?
No,
Okay.
I'm super single. Yeah.
Okay. Um, what did you do about that? What changed? Because you write about this in your books, and I'm just like, okay, you clearly learned something here that could probably
Yeah.
benefit people.
Yeah. Well, what I did, which I think is important to talk about, is I ground on it for years. So more self-help. We would be in the middle of an argument. I would think, I need to go to therapy on Monday to figure out how to figure this out.
Okay.
I need to clean up my act, and I need to get some tools about how to help him clean up his act. I became the therapist in the relationship.
Okay. A
I
lot of people
became
do
the,
that. Yep.
yeah, I became the therapist to get what I wanted,
Hmm.
So then I
Did it
felt,
work?
oh my God. So of course it didn't work. So fucking exhausting.
Yeah.
And the other person feels demeaned all the time because you're being a
Judged, criticized.
therapist.
Yeah.
It's never enough. Well, of course.
I'm not
Well,
doing
it
it
isn't
right.
enough.
And if you're a guy, we have a big button around, I'm not doing it right. So I'll get
Right.
defensive and.
Right. Now, my lesson, without getting super analytical about the other person involved, my
Yeah.
learning in that was, I'm not evil. I'm not asking for too much. I'm asking for too much from this person. And
Ah,
why am I sticking around? Because I don't want to create not this self-fulfilling prophecy, but if I really, really stand in my white hot truth, that in fact, indeed, this relationship isn't enough for me, then I am the bad person. Then I'm not loving enough. I'm not Buddhist enough. I'm not tolerant enough. But the fact of the matter is, this is not working for the shape of my soul. And if I really am loving myself, I'm out of here.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's moving. How that feels like a leap. Like, how did you do that?
Well, it took me years to do that because I'm super loyal and because I was in the spiritual woman trap
Yeah.
of
Be more
um,
tolerant, be more understanding, be more patient, love,
more
just have compassion.
compassion, more compassion. God, if they have issues, I mean, I have issues, so they must have issues. This is just family of origin stuff. And then, I would get, fuck, I've read every fucking self-help relationship book. I've been to the workshop. I would, because I could never get them to read any books, I would highlight paragraphs in the book and leave them out around the house. Then I thought I'd make it this sexy bedtime story and I would read. And then, by the end, you're just screaming. Then you're just throwing the books at each other.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So did you, because you tried it for years, you keep saying that, was it that you just got tired and you hit a wall and you're like, fuck this is obviously not working?
Yes. And this is what one of my favorite psychologists said to me is that, women like you just get worn down. Because I could have kept trying for another 20 years because I thought that was a spiritual thing to do.
Wow.
Right. You just get worn the fuck out of trying to be the bigger, loving, therapeutic person. Yeah.
I love the distinction you made of, I realized something like this, correct me if I'm wrong. I realized I'm not too much. I realized I'm too much for this particular person who actually doesn't either want what I have or can't handle what I need and want. Is that kind of it?
Yeah. And I think, the dark side where the truth is, and, being a quote bad person is, you do become very manipulative from a survival instinct. I will survive. I will get the love I want because I want to thrive. I want to flourish. I want to be my full self. So I will leave another self-help book on the coffee table and hope it gets read.
Yeah, even though I'm resenting you, I'll leave you.
I'm resenting the fuck out of you. And I'm getting dry and brittle. I mean, I've written about how women become brittle. This is how they become brittle. They become the therapist in the relationship. And you're leaking so much Shakti. You're also, a lot of times in this kind of setup, particularly if there's a setup with someone who's a high spectrum, high functioning narcissist, is that other person is feeding on your Shakti. You're not just over giving the Shakti.
They're getting some out of it.
They are getting so much out of it. They're taking your energy and doing shit in the world and saying, look what I've done. But look how creative and responsive I am. And you're exhausted because it's exhausting.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Right. I get exhausted thinking about it. I mean, I get emails like this a lot. So this is great that we're here. I want to keep coming back to, all right, so if you're a woman or a man in this situation where you're the coach or the therapist in the relationship and you keep, and it's coming from this kind of insecurity place of like, if I just do it right or try harder, love more, be more patient, do all these spiritual things, the person will kind of come around magically somehow. And these people eventually get burnt out. Some people last 20 years. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
What can one do back to this? It seems like for me, it's like valuing myself more enough to say, no, this actually doesn't work for me. So what's a practical thing that someone can do to increase your value? I mean, I'm looking for like also what you did, what you see in people that you've talked to.
Yeah. Well, the value thing has to do with a commitment and a devotion to yourself. So you have to be willing to be alone. You have to be willing to not get what you want. Yeah. You have to be willing to deal with your own pain and the hole in your soul. This is where it gets really hard. It's like it's being without a drug. Can you be sober without getting that external whatever? And what I find in my own growth, whether it's in like romantic relationship or in business or creativity, I have to be willing to lose it all at any time. Mm-hmm. Like I've just, I've been in a business scenario where I've said, we're changing directions. You're probably going to think I'm crazy. You might make up stories about me, but this is where we're going. Who's in, who's out? And did I want to lose my people? No. But that's what leadership requires. That's what the truth requires. It's the same in a romantic relationship.
Mm.
And you can do that. I mean, what happens is when you get hit keen to that, you'll overcorrect. This is the love I deserve. This is the intimacy I want. This is how I want to be fucked. This is the money I want to make. And the other, and all that's true, and you deserve it all. But you don't need to make this big sweeping declaration. Besides, you want your dude to get it. More than that, you want the person to ideally want the same things.
Totally.
And this is where I think you can be so incompatible in so many surface ways. But if you want the same things, you got it. That's the secret sauce. It's shared desire.
Yeah. Beautiful. Hey, what's up? Quick interruption from our sponsor, The Relationship School. Okay, the deep psychology of intimate relationships is that 9-month class you never got, all right, in your formal education. Imagine all those big relationship mistakes you made, right? And imagine having an education that would have avoided or prevented some of those big fallouts, painful experiences, or mistakes. Yeah? That could have saved me a ton of drama and pain, for sure. So the class on how to do romantic relationships well is finally here. And you can sign up at jasongaddis.com/relationship school and come join the party with us. 9 months of intense work on yourself and on how to be with other people, particularly in the context of a romantic relationship. So here's what one woman said recently about her experience.
Hi, I'm Susan, and I just finished Jayson's first year of the relationship school, and I feel fantastic. It's been an amazing year. Impact is that I just feel my life taking a totally different trajectory, and my heart is split open with joy about it. I know it was just the best decision I ever made, and I just feel such clarity on that. The work is just driving that home, like, this is exactly what I want to be doing and the right place to be. So come on down, go just get into it with me.
Yes, Susan. If you want to get into it with Susan and so many other amazing, inspiring people, go to jasongaddis.com/relationship school, and we'll see you in there. All right, back to Danielle Laporte. I have to ask because it's just who I am. Were you, back to your childhood for a minute, were you doing this with one of your parents? This, like, I gotta be the coach or therapist or the helper? Or were you doing it to a sibling or friends or?
Well, you have one, I'll speak for myself. You grow up with really young parents. At some point, you're going to end up being somebody's mother.
Yeah, you're the leader, or
I'm going to be the leader. Like, okay, yeah. I mean, I had a really decent childhood, but my mother was 17.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And also being in a pretty unstable household where there was no alcohol. I mean, there was so much sanity in my house. I just want to be clear about that, so my mother doesn't call me if she hears this. But there was a lot of a lot of breaking up and getting back together, a lot of moving houses, and then we get back. So that creates an intense fear of abandonment, which then means I would do anything to make the relationship work in my flavor of anything. Like anything for me to be one more workshop. Oh my God, I'll just go let's just go to this yoga sexuality thing and I'll just learn more and you'll learn more because really the problem is you. And no.
Yeah. So I guess the point I'm trying to make for you, the listener, is that often this type of patterning, gets seeded in our earliest days with our parents. And then it plays out in our adult life until we get the lesson or learn something here. So I just love that you seem to have gotten some big wisdom through trial and error and found your way with, actually, no, I'm going to value myself more than continue to try to change my partner in this way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And everybody should listen to the conversation you had with Gabor Mate. I mean, that, like, he's got it. Dude is nailed. Like, yes, all your family of origin stuff. Out of all the psychiatry, psychology, therapy, counseling I've had, every time, every new person, every new expert says, we got to go back to inner child work. And I roll my eyes. I'm like, are you kidding me? We're going to talk about my little wounded inner Danielle again. But you have to go back to where the wound happened.
Yeah.
And sort that out. And you need to work with your inner child forever because it's part of being whole.
Yeah. It's part of growing ourselves up, right? I'm always growing myself up. I got a little guy in me that's, depending on where I am in my life, it's like, ooh, I'm kind of young and a little immature and I need a little help. So it's important that we have that connection. I agree with you.
Or you're still in shock about the help you didn't get when you were actually that little guy in real time. And it's traumatized your nervous system and you're making silly choices from that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I just want to echo what Danielle said. I'm really with you that our past does matter. And so when people say, oh, just be in the now, man, like the past doesn't matter. We're just like get one with everything right now. It's all good. There's no problem here. I tried that on as well in my meditation community that I was in for years. And it sort of worked kind of, but not really. And then I'd come home to my relationship and I was, a 4-year-old again.
Right. Buddha on the cushion, 4-year-old at home. Yeah, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Wow, nice one. So I want to, this kind of ties into boundaries. You write about boundaries. You have a new chapter in your new book on boundaries. Tell us what's going on with boundaries and why this matters to the growth development oriented person.
I'm so into boundaries. This is my favorite conversation of like the year right now. Okay. I'll just state that as if this were a fact, because I think it is. If you want to be your version of successful, if you want to be physically healthy, if you want to have an intimate, fulfilling relationship, if you want to make some money, if you want to be in joy, you must have excellent boundaries. So if you don't have boundaries right now, you ain't going to get any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's counterintuitive, especially in our personal development space where it's all about focus and opening and allowing and manifesting. No, boundaries.
Say no.
Say no. This is what happens, though. This is why I'm so interested in this conversation in a spiritual context. Because what happens for people who consider themselves to be on a spiritual path is we get really messed up messages about boundaries. And this goes back to keep it harmonious and be spiritual people are tolerant and they're forgiving. Yes, they are. Sometimes at the right time, when it feels genuine, when it's appropriate. Let me just park that for a second. I have to insert my theory on self-love.
Okay.
So the ideology around self-love is that I think we're still hanging out on the surface level. Love yourself so that you get what you want. If you love yourself, people are going to love you back. Okay, sometimes you get what you want. Most of the time you don't. Loving yourself doesn't guarantee that people are going to love you back. In fact, it's going to create a lot of disruption. The right people will love you back. The ones you can really pair with, hang out with, go on holiday with.
Great.
So you can't have boundaries unless you're authentically loving and respecting yourself. What I've known to happen with myself, what I see happening with quote unquote women on the path, is that when it comes time for us to form boundaries, we think we're going to die. It's so unfamiliar. It's almost like a friend and I were having this conversation, and the most accurate word we could come up with was annihilation. It's so jarring to the psyche to, after having been so loving and present and intentional and accommodating and there and committed, you're going to go the fucking distance, to say, maybe I haven't made myself clear. Please do not come on my property.
Right.
Everybody else around you can see it. I've been in that exact scenario. And all my girls are like, D, send the fucking text. And I'm just like, And it doesn't matter how powerful you are in your career or whatever. Everybody has that shaky moment where they can't even see that this is what needs to be done. Yeah.
So boundaries is something you've had to personally really learn.
Yeah. every female. I've every human, but I can just tell you, being on the other side of the dark side of the patriarchal mindset. Yep.
Yeah. What is it about? There's something about women. You keep zeroing in on women in particular. I mean, guys have actually, believe it or not, their own boundary issues. But
Sure.
what is it about women that makes it hard for women to set boundaries and say no and
Yeah.
no, thank you, actually step off the property. No, I'm not going to call you back. We're done.
Right. Because we want to merge all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to take care of you. I really, doesn't mean I don't cook, but I mean, in some way, I naturally want to care for you. And that's the feminine quality that there's a whole other conversation to have, why we're overdoing it with this dialogue around what is feminine and what is masculine. Let's just say I'm a predominantly nurturing creature. So I want to nurture whoever's in my space in any way that I can,
Mm-hmm.
which is very in opposition to, well, not nurturing you, to having boundaries. Feed yourself. You are off the tit, so to speak.
Yeah.
And you might die without me. Or not as bad. You probably think I'm a crazy lady. There she goes again. So emotional. Yeah, this is emotional. Get the fuck off my property.
Yeah. Yeah. I talked to a woman yesterday actually who said, well, I can't end the relationship now because he doesn't have a job and he's financially dependent on me.
Oh, I'm in this conversation right now with somebody I know.
I was like, what? Wait, did you just hear what you just said?
Yeah.
I was like, when is he going to learn to get a job? He's not going to learn until you say fucking get out.
Is there kids involved in that situation?
There were not in this situation.
Oh, okay. Then I
get
don't
it's
feel
more
quite as committed. But once the kids are involved, oh, the stories, the accommodating that partners will do for the partner who's really been a chump. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Are you in a relationship right now? You said you're single, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
What's kind of the deal with single women right now? Like you, are you dating? Are you like, you know how some people are like, I'm single and I'm like hibernating and no, thank you. Like,
yeah,
personally.
No, I am not hibernating. How would I explain my situation? I feel really full with my life. There's so much love in my life. And so I don't feel deprived in any way. And I love men and I'm like so ready to partner. Like bring it on. And I don't feel, like some people have asked me, are you ever concerned someone's not going to be big enough for you? It's like, look, I think what I want is rare, but rare and hard to find aren't necessarily the same thing. I mean, exceptional can show up any old time.
Yeah.
And what's it like to be single? I mean, I guess, part of the answer to like, what's it like to be single now is how do men occur to me now?
And you're a single mom. Are you divorced or not? Are you not?
I'm divorced. Yeah.
Okay. How long were you married?
15 years.
Wow.
Yeah. Together for 15 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I ask only because, probably a third of our listeners here are single, and they're at various stages of being single. And I always get curious to ask about single people who I interview, like, tell me, like, what's the deal going on right now?
Yeah.
And then with you, and what can people be?
Well, here's some things that I can say to this that are useful. One is there's a difference between not getting laid and being celibate. So if you're like if you're on a spiritual path and you're like, I'm celibate now, are you really? I mean, are you really making a conscious decision to not be having sex? Or are you just going through this dry patch where you're not getting laid and you'd be happy to get laid?
Uh-huh.
I think there's real strength in having your declared celibate phase. I think too many people, I'll speak for myself. I'm not the kind of person that can get out of one relationship and go into another. I grieve within the relationship like most women do, but then I want to clean some stuff up after.
Before you get into another one. Yeah.
Before I get into something else, then I have impeccably high standards. And basically part of my spiritual practice, my just way of living is holding out. because I'm not interested in the mess that gets created from compromising. So like, I'd rather be super solo and not get laid for another few months or another year or whatever it needs to happen than go get laid.
Yeah, then compromise like who you are and your integrity.
Yes. And then this gets into like, we've so lost touch with the sacredness of sex. And I think a lot of us in this space think we're in touch with it because we're going to the tantric workshops and we're, doing our shit at Burning Man and it's all for the goddess.
Uh-huh.
But I'm not down with that.
Yeah.
I write about it in White Hot Truth. And
I haven't gotten to that chapter yet. I'm psyched to read it.
I think you'll dig it. It's just like, it's very personal. You have to define what freedom is for yourself. But I see what's happening in this community is that if you're not, first, most women have to get there. You get on your spiritual track, you get clear, you want to grow, great. You get your feminist profile in order, great. And then you got to figure out where you fit in the spiritual sexual liberation space. So it's like, am I going to go to a workshop and have some guy get me off that I don't know because that's the enlightened thing to do and that's becoming liberate? No, that doesn't work for me. Like, if you want to get to me, it's like invitation only and we're in relationship and nothing's going to happen publicly. But
nice.
Someone
and
like
boundaries, folks, do you hear that? Boundaries.
Boundaries, yeah. And in those kinds of situations, you will get labeled as being not liberate. It's worse. It gets more insidious in terms. That's right. You're repressed. There's some kind of psychological thing you haven't
sexual
worked
power.
That's right. That's the argument. You're not owning your sexual power.
Yeah.
You must. You're just being. You're cold. No, my sexual power says it's so sacred. I'm going to keep my pants on until I know the other person. Actually really know the other person.
I have standards here, actually, and I want a heart connection first, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, what I say to most, chicks in this space, like, if you think someone is creepy, they probably are, or at least they're creepy to you. So, because there's a lot of intellectualization and spiritualization of people in that space, but they've done this in so many hours and they practiced in India. And look at all the people coming to these workshops. And then they have these amazing production value videos shot. And it's just really hard to say no. And
Yep. And you might be, this would be another argument here. You're probably projecting your dad issues onto this creepy person. So you better look at that, right?
Right.
It's like, wait, no,
right.
Maybe they're just a creepy person.
Yeah.
And it's my radar it's my radar. I'm sensitive. It's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, you're talking to a monogamous, married family guy. So
yeah,
the sexuality movement is really interesting to me because most of the time I'm like, that's not how it is in my marriage. Because there's a lot of glorified sexual explosion stuff blissed out.
And the open thing, I can tell you personally, it wouldn't work for me. If my dude came to me and proposed an open relationship, because it was his next edge. I love that. That's a really great one. It's our next edge. Yeah. The growing edge is the door there. So yeah.
Awesome. So go a little more here, like on the poly scene. Like, what's your take on the poly scene? That's kind of, really alive and
personally, I'm clear about what works for me and what doesn't. So I'm a no for that. My investigation of it has been every psychiatrist, psychologist I've talked to, either I've been in therapy or just friends, have said, I am not exaggerating. Let's see, if I've talked to 12 of them, 12 of them have said poly doesn't work. That you cannot, an open relationship might work for 10, 20 years, but it will always be the introduction of the third person that dissolves the relationship.
Yeah.
And that's been and it doesn't mean that poly doesn't work for you in a really healthy, awesome way for 5-10 years, but don't think that you're going to be able to keep your core relationship together. maybe the core relationship needs to crumble and you need that other disruptive agent to whatever. But yeah. And my personal philosophy is, and I have friends who swing and who are open and like, that's all. I'm like, cool. If that's what's working for you, if you're happy.
Yeah.
My thing is that I want full on intimacy. It's hard enough to have full on intimacy with one person. You're going to have a little bit with me, a little bit with, I don't think it works.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think monogamy is a way to God. It's difficult, but it's a different kind of difficult. I mean, so is poly, but I'm going to be up for this kind of difficult. Yeah.
What, since you said God, what's God for you?
For me, God is light, love. It's the consciousness that created the universe. It's the energy that holds the fabric together. It is the animating force of the material world. Yeah, it's light.
And do you believe in the Enlightenment?
What do you mean by that?
As it's taught in most spiritual communities, meditating
Like
to be enlightened.
You can be enlightened when you're in physical form?
Yeah.
No. I think you can get higher on the spectrum, for sure. I think there are highly awakened beings. I think if you really know all there is need to know, you're not in this little flesh suitcase, that's for sure. You would vibrate at such a high frequency, you wouldn't be able to.
Mm-hmm.
You would you would. What's the word? When someone turns to ashes, combustion. You would just combust. The light would fry you. Yeah, but I think they're extremely awakened masters on the planet for sure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And how do you think those awakened masters do intimacy with one partner over time?
I don't know that they have that much of a human need. So, I mean, a lot of them you see are not in romantic relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's basic. They don't need to have sex. They are fulfilled in other ways in their work. You know, they're so expanded. They're getting the ecstasy of light and of consciousness. And I think part of becoming more enlightened in that way is you do let go of some of the human carnal first, second, third chakra desires. It's not what I'm up for in this lifetime.
Yeah,
I'm so down with my second chakra.
What's your jam in this lifetime?
Well, my jam is that I know what my talents are. I know what my dharma is, which is sensuality and abundance. And I love physical beauty. And I really want to love Earth while I'm on it. And I'm going to rise above what I think is I'm going to try to integrate and rise above what I think is the density, the darkness, the damaging parts of human desire. Like, you know, it's the dark side of ego.
Yeah.
It's the difference between truly sacred sex and you just need to get fucked. And it's the choice for me to be almost vegan versus I eat protein and that chicken is here to serve me. Those are what in my books for my life, more enlightened choices. It's how I parent my son. It's my capacity to hold out for the right sex, the right person, and then be super committed. That's my version of holistic. And, I believe we live many lives in many dimensions as so many incomprehensible types of beings and energies. And I'm in it for the long game. And I keep that picture in mind when I make my choices here.
Yeah.
So I don't get that stressed about a lot of the shit.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I feel, I feel more agony than ever about the state of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
Just,
it's a lot to be with right now.
It's a lot to be with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, as we wind down here, Danielle, this has been awesome. Couple laser questions here for you. You ready?
Okay. I love them. Love
cool.
Laser.
Feedback. If you had one piece of feedback for men, what is it?
It's the lower back. Just hold her, put your hand at the lower back. Just be there. Like right now, I'm teaching my 13-year-old how to slow dance in our kitchen. And that's the same thing. Like, notice what she wants and give her what you think she needs within that. So like, be strong and fluid, strong and fluid, strong and fluid. And close your mouth. Nobody likes a guy. It's a thing. Nobody likes a guy who listens like that. There's a just thing about, see, close your mouth. Better. I trust you more. You feel more present. Right.
Okay.
Right. It's like this energy, like you're present, you're listening. But when women are present and listening, they're open.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. That's my one feedback from it.
Awesome. Okay. So let's rewind that part. One piece of feedback for women.
Women. Oh, be really clear on what makes you feel sexy when you're alone without somebody watching. And then be that as often as you can. Yeah.
Wow. That's a good one.
Because that solves the issue of too much makeup and uncomfortable clothing, like trying to dress for the men. But it's your job to be sexy in that dynamic. Like you want to be that. Like this is part of the exchange.
Yeah.
So just be authentically sexy. Be sexy in a way that works for you.
Nice. Yeah. Damn. Okay. Women, rewind that part. And then last question, as you may know, I'm building the relationship school to, teach us the class we never got in school. And one of my goals is to reach 1 million teens and young adults with this information.
I'm so glad you're reaching out to teens.
Yeah, thanks.
Brilliant.
So if you were to give me advice on, Jayson, you have to, if you're going to reach young people, here you got to teach this. Like what is your advice to me for the relationship school? The one thing.
It's very specific. This is me being very specific and very dictatorial. You must please address pornography as intensely, as immediately, and as widely as possible. Because it's killing our kids. And it's going to wreak havoc in the future in all levels of society.
Such a big one.
Yeah. So in our house, we have a 6-week monthly porn check-in. And I say to my kid, what have you seen lately? Sometimes he's seen something on YouTube, little sidebar something. Sometimes he hasn't. The average age for boys in North America to be exposed to hardcore pornography, like anal, is 10 years old.
Yeah.
This messes with your brain. This creates violence in society, not to mention erectile dysfunction down the road. Like,
oh yeah,
it's got to be addressed. Information is power. If you think 10 is too early to talk to your kids about it, well, obviously you're wrong. Get in there and let them know what real sex is, what health is, because you can't filter this shit out. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, we just go through fashion magazines and I say, that's porn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. I'll take that to heart for sure. And parents, there was a little side piece of feedback there for you as well. All right. Danielle, so awesome hanging with you.
You too.
Really beautiful to be with you. I could jam for a long time. So thanks for all your wisdom.
Yeah.
Gold.
I've been watching you, so I'm really glad for what you're doing in the world. Yeah.
Thanks. All right. Where can people find you? I've got the book here. Everybody, make sure you get this White Hot Truth book. It's awesome, especially if you're into growth and development. It's going to keep you in check. Where
I'm everywhere. DanielleLaporte.com. It's really best in terms of supporting women-owned business if you buy the book from me, not Amazon. But you can get the book everywhere, every bookstore. And the center of my universe is Instagram. I love being there.
Yep. Okay, cool. All right, thanks. We'll include all that in the show notes. Link to your website with the book.
Cool.
Okay, thanks for hanging out.
Okay, love. Thanks, everybody.
All right, there you have it, Danielle Laporte. Okay, one action step is go buy her book, White Hot Truth. If you like personal growth stuff and have a sense of humor, I think that and Mark Manson's book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, are really entertaining personal growth books. If you want kind of a light read that's funny, that's not so clinical, maybe. check out those 2 books. And check out her website. It's in the show notes. It's daniellelaporte.com. Okay, she's got loads and loads of resources. Action step. Okay, so this is specifically directed at some of you who feel like you're too much for your partner. Remember her quote, are you asking for too much from your partner, or are you asking for too much from this person? Like, in other words, are you asking too much from a person that actually can't meet you and can't handle what you're asking? That's a really essential question for those of you who are into personal growth and development and you find your partner is not, and they're kind of dragging ass. That is a really good question, because the answer might be, I might be asking too much. Wow. And then it's a point of, do I keep asking what I feel is true, which I think is her point, or do I like dumb myself down and fit into this other person's, capacity to meet me? I don't think so. Of course, I'm going to tell you not to abandon yourself here. All right. Okay. Now, let's get right into this contest stuff, right? This is exciting. So as you know, we opened up the Relationship Schools live weekend called Embracing Conflict. That's what the weekend is about. You're going to learn how to embrace conflict, and you're going to learn some tools and tips on how to deal with yourself in relationship to conflict with other people. This is a life skill that should be taught from day one. And we're teaching it in our family, and it's essential to be able to work out your differences with other human beings, because in a long-term relationship, this will destroy your relationship if you don't get this one. Okay, so there's about 5 requirements here. If you want a free ticket here, and by the way, free to me is not free. Nothing's really free, right? As they say. I'm going to ask you pay $100 if you win. Why am I doing that? Because if you have a little skin in the game, you're more likely to show up. I've had an experience in the past where I gave away a ticket to a workshop of mine, and the person left halfway through. Was it because I wasn't delivering value? Definitely not. It was because they didn't put any skin in the game and they weren't invested. Had this person paid $1,000, $500, I guarantee you they would have stayed the whole weekend because they put serious money down, right? I'm going to get something out of this. They left. So I don't want you to be that person, okay? So I am asking you put a little skin in the game. So you basically get $1,000 weekend for $100 if you win, okay? Now, here is the deal. And there's going to be a second place prize and a third place prize, which I have not announced yet. It'll probably be time with me, a course, etc. Okay. So number 1 is you have had to have left a review on my podcast, and you got to take a picture of that and send it to us. You got to be a member of the Smart Couple community. Go to jasongaddis.com/smartcouplegroup to join. It's free. Okay, it's a Facebook group. Number 3, you got to follow me on Instagram. All right, because I do other random mini contests in there between now and the live weekend. So there's a possibility of me offering something else at some point, but only it's going to be on Instagram. Okay, so you got to follow me on Instagram. Then you got to comment on an Instagram post. All right, and take a screenshot of that. So we've got proof that you commented on one of my posts. And then number 5 is tell us, you got to record a video with your phone here. Most smartphones can do this now. You record a 1 minute or less video and you post it in the Smart Couple group. All right. If your video is over 1 minute, you're disqualified. So in under 1 minute, you've got to say, hey, you got to say 2 things. My favorite podcast episode so far is blank. Tell us why. It's on episode 55 because this happened. And I really want to come to the Relationship Schools weekend because, all right, I really want to come embrace conflict because, okay? And we'll leave these instructions in the show notes, all right? 5 basic steps. You got to leave a review of the podcast. You got to be a member of the Smart Couple community. Follow me on Instagram, leave a comment on Instagram, and then record a video of you. Oh, last step is record a video of you, 1 minute or less, on what your favorite episode is, and why you want to come to the Embracing Conflict weekend, and then post it. The last step here is you post it in the Smart Couple group. Public post in that group. Okay, there's about 4,000 people in that group. You're going to post your video. That community is very kind for the most part. Every now and then we get a strange person in there. But for the most part, we're a kind-hearted group of people, and we're going to cheer you on, all right? We've done this before a couple times, and it's been really heartwarming to see all the videos come in. Okay, and one final detail is there's a deadline on this contest, okay? Deadline is Saturday, August 5th at midnight. Got to get your video in by Saturday, August 5th at midnight, because we're going to announce the winner on the following week's podcast, right? Next Wednesday. And we want to pick a winner, okay? So let's do this, all right? All these instructions, if you're confused, rewind them or go to the show notes, click the link here on Facebook or the email, wherever you found me, Instagram, and read the show notes and write that down. And please do that under a minute, folks. If it's over a minute, remember, you're disqualified, okay? It's good boundaries, good boundary practice, honoring someone's boundaries. And then honor the deadline, August 5th. Let's go. Okay, so this could turn your $1,000 weekend into a $100 weekend, all right? And then final reminder, the early bird price goes up August 11th. For the rest of us, that is $7.99 for you. And if you bring a friend, it's $3.99. So they get half price. So then you guys can split the difference if you want. So that can be a partner or a friend. Please don't drag someone that doesn't really want to be here to this weekend, okay? Because they'll be folding their arms with a frown on their face in the back, and they take away from the vibe, all right? Okay, that is it. This was a good one, a long one. I appreciate your listening with me, hanging out with Danielle, and may we see you here in the Relationship Schools Weekend Intensive, Embracing Conflict. And please do your best to learn this skill, okay? If not here, somewhere, because it's a lifesaver versus a life sucker, okay? Awesome. Take care, folks. Talk soon.